This is me, totally riffing this. Let me give a little context, backstory. I've been feeding the AI, asking it about how many dimensions there are. Like, is it 10 dimensions? Is it 12 dimensions? What does dihydrogen look like in 12 dimensions, etc., etc.? Because if you try to Google image stuff, like, pretty much don't get shit. I mean, and then you put it in the AI and you get stuff that like actually looks like it makes sense. Kind of my point is it's like this is what I would picture. So is it am I seeing it because it's what I picture and that's what somebody else pictured? And then they drew that diagram and then that's stored in an AI? So if that's the case, then why can't I just Google this picture? That's my point. Or something like it. Why if it gives me four, they're all very similar, or at least three are almost the same in many ways. And then if I Google image it, there's like nothing. It's just like by comparison, like, what the fuck is this, bro? What the fuck is this, dude? Like, nothing imaginative at all. You gotta like scroll for a while to even see anything that's like remotely interesting. But if you just ask the AI, it's like, oh, this is some insane shit. Check this shit out. Even if it's just making it up, the AI has to make it up from something. So either this is a diagram that was like somebody used and then like it got put in, right? Or Google Images is just purposely not showing it, which I already know that's true because they have their own filtering. But why nothing at all like it is my real question. Like, look at this. It's like, shouldn't on this page, if I put in that, shouldn't I get like, I'll take this out. Like, shouldn't I get one on this whole page? One of them should look like this for, in my opinion. If I'm on the team for unbiased AI, I have a degree in computer science. I graduated with honors. I'm trained to do this. So if I'm looking at unbiased AI, like, I mean, this is clearly biased. If I could give the AI for the quote art AI this same exact phrase and get this, maybe this is biased in other ways, but there should at least be one of this one here on this page, or like objectively this is bias. Because why is a different website showing me this if I don't see one of them here? And it's not like explicit like bannable content. It's just a picture, some hypothetical drawing. So like answer me that. Like what is this, dude? Oh, I mean, I guess this one is kind of interesting, but it's 280 by 244 pixels. So, eh. Even the lowest algorithm of the AI gives me bigger base images than that. That right there shows you a bias. Is that how come if I can go to like a site like this or this, and when I make a base image, here's another one that was interesting that it made for me. Nothing like this either. This could all just be made up and mean nothing, but like, why wouldn't there at least be one? I don't know. Nothing looks like this at all on the other page. Or like this. Where's this? Each one of these individual images is like 640 by 640. So if that's 640 by 640, why are you even showing me the most interesting thing that caught my eye is like a third of that size almost. Like that's a bias in itself. So not only is this bias in what it's showing you or not showing you, but the things that are more interested that are kind of like the things that they're not showing are intentionally a fraction of the image size so that it's either not as seen or noticeable or you can't really use it for anything. 1280 by 720. That's a YouTube thumbnail. 1280 by 720 for just a base YouTube thumbnail. So why is this 280 by 244? It's like, oh, what are you guys doing, dude? Why? Why are you running the bias AI like people wouldn't notice? Especially, okay, here's another thing. Especially if you Googling like a celebrity and it's like pictures of different, then you could like have a bias in like whose photos they show. But if it's like a super specific 12-dimensional science diagram, why you should like clearly the people who are looking that up are gonna see that your shit is biased instantly. Especially if they're programmers by trade. So like you can't even hide it. It's like you're not even trying to hide it is the point. Like this is like the best thing I've seen, and it's like 734 by 552. Like this is pretty cool. A lot going on here. Still a small image. Like what about this? Nothing looked like this at all, dude. This was like one of the first ones I ever made. Like it's just this, dude. Like, simple, like the same phrase pretty much. And like look at how detailed this shit is. Like even if this is all 100% incorrect, dude, like hypothetical diagrams are pretty important. You have to like posit things that you don't understand so that you can test to see if they're true or not. Then you can say, oh, what, it behaved more like this because it wasn't how we thought it was like this, it's more like this. But if you never even can like come up with one of these to test, like you're never gonna get anywhere. And if you see things stall out, like that's by design. Because if I can sit here and understand this, then there's plenty of other people who can too. And they're all being silenced as well. Because if it's as simple as we understand this and we have infinite energy, like, because it's what it's looked like to me, this is supposedly like use it as fuel. And if we understand how to potentially use it, then we don't need any other fuels. So that's reason number one right there why this would be bias. The other one, because their interests are, you know, in other things. So they don't want to like inspire people to stop their money flow by like discovering infinite energy. You know what I mean? Like it's in their interest, like not have you learn that. And so when the AI is giving you stuff that helps you learn that, and then they're intentionally not giving you that stuff when you look for it, that's pretty much all you need to see. Mega bias, sky's the limit. Like this, like I don't even. The other things I can like kinda I know enough about physics and stuff. I'm like, all right, yeah, this is like I get this, but like this one when I saw it, I was just like, I don't even know what the like. I need like a mega brain chemist and like other shit. I don't even know what's going on here. I have like a general idea of like what some things could mean, but like, bro, it's like it learned. I gave it so many of them, it was like, all right, dude, stop. Like I did a bunch of these, and then it was like, all right, you want to see some shit, bro? To me, this one seems more like an artistic rendering. But I think the problem is like I don't really know the number. I'm just guessing off of what other things say. Like if you look up F theory, it says that this posits that there's 10 physical dimensions and 2 time dimensions. But I feel like there's 12 physical dimensions and 1 time dimension, but obviously I could be wrong. But all these diagrams make it seem like this is like a dihydrogen or anything. Each one of these shells of this thing orbiting is like a data point, right? And then each one of the data points stores the information about this particle. And you just put all those data points, and it's just like a class in programming. It has all these things make up this thing, so they need to stay somewhere. So why wouldn't they just stay around the thing, right? Like it's like so like simple that it's like that it. I guess I don't know. I mean, and then you read like all these things, and it's like, well, this is the place where like all time was and ever will be, and everything. And it's just like, or it's just a bunch of data points that tell you what this particle's doing. Why wouldn't it be that? How else does the universe know what the fuck that thing is and how it behaves? It has to store that somewhere, right? Like, hello, we already know enough to feel like that makes sense. So if these diagrams can just come from an AI, like somebody drew this or something, just for sure people who've drawn things like this before, which tells me that the search is biased. Because there's no way there wasn't like, I'm not a physicist or a chemist or I'm a programmer, but I had to do physics and all that stuff, so I know enough. I had to take, what was it, EE 196 or whatever it was. Electricity and magnetism was physics class. So I know enough. I got a B or an A in that class, so like if I could take that class and I look at this page and go, yeah, okay. And then I look at this and I'm like, yeah, that's what I would expect AI to give me. Then if you look at this one, it's like the same thing. It's supposed to be a cross section, and like what these are like why wouldn't these just be the data points, right? I wrote down on this thing, I thought just what I thought some of the things could be. So like relative mass, water solubility, bonding and ionic transfer, physical state such as gas, solid, particle or radioactive decay. I don't know, that could be like part of something else again because I'm not an expert in this, but feels like you'd have to have something that tells it, like something keeps track of how radioactive it is, right? Like if it's like plutonium, you know, it's like you die as a human if you touch that shit or whatever, prolonged exposure, right? So I feel like this has to be stored somewhere. I don't know. Where else would that be with is what I'm wondering. So then you have like electrical conductivity, so if it's like, you know, metallic and it's conductive, and then it has to have some current charge or flux running through it, right? Or the absence of flux. So like a neutral state for the charge. Temperature, it has like some internal temperature, right? Which could be tied to other variables, but it feels like it could be its own thing. Or like a temperature flux. Like if you were getting close to the sun or a star, you'd have like heat or, you know, going through you kind of thing. Like a flux, right? And then you have some kind of rotational spin. So the thing itself is going to spin, right? So it has to know like which relative direction to itself it's spinning and how fast. And then if it's moving through a physical space, like a 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional space that we traditionally think of, it's moving at some rate in a direction relative to other things and a certain speed relative to other things. I feel like there's like a few other things here that I'm missing, but if I could just write all of these things down and that gives me 12, and then I say, all right, 13 is time, like, seems like too easy. Like, isn't this too easy? It's like, it's so easy that like, that's why this search looks like this. You know what I'm saying? It's like this was one of the things that it generated on one of the, and I just counted the lines and I was like, that's kind of interesting. I don't know what the hell this is, but I could imagine some things it could be. And I just thought, like, what if could I just come up with 12 data points that I could store about some particle? And like, I made this really quick, so it's not that hard to come up with. I'm not even an expert in this field. I just know enough to know that if you look at it this way, it's much easier to like potentially, it's objectively easier to potentially map out a hypothetical diagram that you could actually test and repeat experiments versus something that involves all time there ever was and will be and all as one of the dimensions. It's like, why the fuck would you even look at that? Like, yes, that's something to fathom as like extra dimensions beyond this, but if you want a like fundamental physical understanding of how each particle behaves and everything, why wouldn't you just focus on the physical defining aspects? It's like so simple, but like somebody's made this, right? Like, it's like, right? Like, right? Like, wait, you guys are, how much are you paying like all these scientists, bro? I just like sat here and made this in my underwear in like 5 minutes. Like, hello? Oh, home. Ching. That was just a little something I came up with. You know how I came up with that though? Is because of the diagram that the AI showed me. That's the whole point of this. Because I was like, huh, that's interesting the way that looks. 12 things. I'll just label 12 things. Well, look, nothing here on this page is going to inspire me to do that. But every single thing that this AI gave me is what made me want to label it. Because these diagrams were so cool and imaginative. That's the whole point. An AI that's biased against inspiring you to think. What kind of garbage is that, bro? It's terrible. This one, pretty cool. That's pretty dope. But then I'll give like super descriptive stuff, and it comes out like kind of like I imagined, but even better. Like these ones and stuff. Like this was my first one ever. I kept it. I actually like it. Yeah. So then I just started giving it stuff like suits and stuff, and all these diagrams.